Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village of Bartlett for the Committee of the Whole meeting for January 3rd, 2023. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to again please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Here.
GANDSEY?
Here.
Gunstein?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Laporte?
Here.
Sawansky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. The one item we have this evening is under Community and Economic Development, Chairman GANDSEY.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item. It's the community survey results. A key component of the village's strategic planning process is obtaining resident feedback and incorporating that feedback into the village's goals and vision. In 2002, 2004, and 2007, the strategic planning process included input from a strategic plan resident impact survey. Throughout the fall and summer of 2022, staff completed a community survey in-house. Attached are the results of that survey. I'm going to turn that over to staff to give us a rundown.
Thank you, Trustee GANDSEY. So for this survey, as you mentioned, this is going a key part in gaining that resident feedback for towards strategic planning goals. So when we completed this survey, we generated 1,075 responses from village residents, representing roughly 8% of households in the village of Bartlett. The primary use of this survey will be to bring the results as well as a more in-depth analysis to the village board as a part of the strategic planning process. Many suggestions raised are items that the village has already prioritized in existing strategic plan goals or are addressed in other recently adopted plans such as the TOD and technology plans. This document in the packet as well as an interactive web page will also be made available on the village website for residents to view the results as well. Many comments were also received regarding other taxing bodies such as U46, the townships, park and library districts, and we also plan to share the survey results with those other taxing bodies so that they can be aware of the comments and concerns raised by residents that pertain to them. So now I'm going to start walking through just the overall results of the survey, and like I mentioned, we are going to go into some more depth at strategic planning as well. So on this first slide here, you'll see a heat map showing where the responses were, and it is relatively evened out between the residential areas in town. And then on to question 2, as you can see, a majority of the residents that completed the survey are 20-plus year residents, and then kind of pretty evenly divided amongst the other groups there. So on the next questions here, the largest group for the age range was the 65-plus group at 46%. And then what we did want to touch on was a key thing that we noticed when we did a survey of our senior residents in 2017 was that a good majority of them answered that they did not have access to a computer or internet. So we made sure to do a direct mailing to anybody on our senior water billing list. So we sent them a direct paper copy of the survey, and we manually entered those results as well. So that kind of shows why we got that larger chunk there. And then you can see in comparison to our actual age population. For question 4, about a little over a quarter of residents stated that they have a child under the age of 17 in the house, and also about 52% answered that there is somebody over the age of 65 and older. On the next page here, we'll move on to the communications section. Majority of the responses that came in were in the good to excellent range. And then for all of the different sections here, we've included a word bubble just to kind of boil down all of the different short answer questions. So the larger the word is, the more often it was brought up in the short answer responses. So from here you can see that texting was so you can see that text alerts was one of the larger items that was raised here. Moving on to the next section, we asked residents to rank the way that they like to receive, or the way that they do currently receive their information. The top 3 responses were the BART letter, village website, and then social media. And then in comparison, when asked how they prefer to receive that information, the top 3 answers were, again, text messaging, direct phone calls, or emails. And then in the question 9, we asked if they were to receive text alerts, what kind they would like to receive. And as you can see, that across the board, there was pretty consistent for the most part on the types of results that they want. And if we're going forward, staff is definitely going to keep this in mind. Moving on to the economic development section, we asked residents to rank the priorities they have for economic development for the village. The top answer was to provide shopping and services that residents would enjoy, followed by providing a source of revenue that can offset the tax base, and then the final option was provide employment opportunities for residents. When asked what percentage of shopping and dining they do in Bartlett, as you can see, about 1/3 of the residents said 50 to 100% in those are the 2 green categories, while the other sections had a little bit of a drop down on that. We've got another word cloud here, so you can take a look at what residents had to say about different economic development items. And this was when asked, this was in response to the question here of when you do shop or dine outside of Bartlett, what are the reasons? And the number 1 reason was if there's just a desired retailer or dining option that isn't available in the village, followed by preferring a very specific business somewhere else, or prices being cheaper somewhere else as the lower option there. Next, you can see the different regions residents indicated where they do the most of their shopping and dining, with the top answer being the downtown area at 33%, followed closely by the Route 59 corridor and Stearns and Bartlett near Jewel. The next section here, we asked residents how often they visit downtown Bartlett for shopping and dining, and the 37% said twice weekly or weekly, with kind of evenly spread out there amongst the other groups. And then if you do not visit downtown Bartlett, when asked what the reason was, one of the references was business selection in the downtown, as well as walking being difficult. Moving on to infrastructure, when asked about how to rate different aspects of travel in terms of walking, driving, and biking throughout the community, excellent and good had the strongest answers there. And then when asked about a range of different aspects of utility services within the village, from roads, sidewalks, bike paths, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water, snow plowing, residential, garbage, brush collection, yard waste, and parkway tree trimming. As you can see, the strongest answer in those is the light blue line of good, with excellent and average being right behind it. And as you can see, there's another word cloud there, kind of just showing what some of those answers were. Moving on to public safety, we asked residents about a variety of other public safety initiatives within the village. And again, as you can see, the good to excellent range was very strong there as well. And the same can be said here for asking about other aspects of public safety in terms of visibility of police, efforts to prevent crime, and public safety education programs. And there's another word cloud there that you can take a look at. In terms of a few other miscellaneous questions that we asked, when asked about the awareness or having visited the museum or Bartlett Hills, the museum had 65% saying yes, they were aware, and the Bartlett Hills had 73% there. When asked about the overall transparency and accountability of village actions, the results were heavily there and good and average there, ranking the how their household prioritizes different strategic planning goals by category. The top ranked answer was budget and finance, followed by economic development. And then when asked to rate their quality of life on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being excellent and 1 being poor, the average score was 8.1. You can see the heavy concentration in the 10 to 7 category. And then if you can see the word cloud there, people really emphasize, feeling safe, saying there was a great community to live in, and a lot of comments about a small town, hometown feel. And with that, I'm sorry, one last question. When asked one idea that they think could enhance the excitement or better our community, one thing I want to note about this word bubble here, they're a good, with more being such a large word there, that's kind of 50-50 on. Some of the answers were excitement about more brewing, and then others were saying something along the lines of, more restaurants, more shopping and things like that. So that's where that one came from. And with that, I can take any questions.
So I just have a few things that I wanted to bring up. When I was looking at the raw data, I was trying to kind of pivot it differently, because I think one thing this doesn't show is by age group, what people are thinking. We're kind of putting it all together, and if you look at the different age brackets, especially someone middle-aged with kids, social media was above the Bartletters, so I think it's just something to keep in mind when we look at this data, and as we're thinking about planning for the future, and succession planning for the type of skills that are needed or what we're doing. I think we have to kind of look at the data that way too, not just take it at face value as lumped all together. Other thing that I noticed was, if you did look at it by the different age groups, and that last question, the overall quality, it did go down. So putting it all together, we see people 65 plus are more satisfied than as you go down in the age brackets. And another thing that stood out to me was the response to the app, having alerts in there. And I think that's something important for us to think about as we do strategic planning, what kind of technology is needed and what kind of resources are needed to run that technology for the future. So those are just some things that I thought stood out.
And one thing we also did want to make sure that we brought when this comes to strategic planning is seeing those trends within all those different groups, and also including location and where people live to see trends that way too. So that's absolutely something we're working on putting together still.
Okay.
I had a question or an observation. Question 4, do any children 17 or under live in your household? You have 7 of the respondents, 73% say no. 27% say yes. So is there any indication as to how representative that is of the entire village, other than the just 1,075 households that responded?
I think that information is collected with our census data. So like we did for the age demographic, we can do that for household as well. It does break down by census tract too, doesn't it, Kristen?
I don't think, with the last census, they did a simplified form. They did a short form instead of the long form, so it's not as detailed. But we do have some of that information for the village's snapshot that's put together by CMAP.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any common denominators when you had a survey question? If people rated it fair or poor, it seemed to be 2 or 3 pages of comments. Of those 2 or 3 pages of comments that were the lesser than popular answers, is there a common thread there? And have we addressed it? Are they misled? They just don't know?
Yeah.
All of the above,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So most of these word clouds that we did were from those when specifically asked, why did you rate, have a lower rating there. So yeah, so that we can really see the common threads here. I'll use infrastructure as an example. With making comments about sidewalk maintenance, tree trimming, things like that. So that's kind of where we did see that. And we can make sure we send this over as well to kind of take
I think the overall themes on, we specifically asked residents to elaborate when their scores were poor, because, how else do you improve, right? So we wanted people to elaborate on those. And I think when I was reading those comments, there was not a whole lot that surprised me in it. It was things that we were addressing with the current strategic plan. But in all fairness to those residents responding, they don't always know, what we're working on until it's, in the public purview. I think a good example of that is the comments that were received about bike paths and sidewalks and connectivity. Those comments came before the information about the bike plan was released and was in the newspaper, and then people saw that, oh yeah, there is this plan. You know, some of those specific comments we got were, I would like a plan between X and Y, and the bike plan already had that anticipated from the comments from the community, something that we're working on, not something they're going to really see until it gets built. So there is some kind of lag, like you say, Joe. There's a lag between what we know and what we know we're working on and what the community sees. Some of that is just a function of timing. Some of that is a job for us to do a better job talking about what we're working on. I don't think there was anything really surprising in the comments of, oh, wow, you know, I never really thought that that was a concern. I don't think that was it. But I think there are definitely a lot of grist for the mill for strategic planning in January to kind of hone in on some particulars. There are some goals that I think we have in our strategic plan that can be better defined through the survey. A lot of the technology questions about, you know, where do we see ourselves in a few years and what do we think is going to be on our horizon, the survey provides some input into, like, you know, a glimpse into that as well.
So it looked like a lot of people gave their email addresses. Is there like an expectation to follow up with them, or what was the purpose of that?
Yeah, you know, one thing we definitely were looking at was, you know, there's also a lot of low-hanging fruit there in terms of things that are, you know, where we can point somebody kind of, oh, hey, this, you know, what you asked for does exist, you know, if you know, in a variety of different things. So that was something we were planning on doing after we've compiled everything, was just kind of go back and look and see, you know, if there is anything that we can easily send out and reach out to folks for.
Well, one thought might be, it looked like the Bart letter was the #1 source that everybody used regularly. So perhaps we take the top 5, or you'll look for 5 of the people's complaints and match them with what we're doing, and then put a little editorial each month or show a list and say in January we're going to talk about this, in February we're going to talk about that. So that way we are communicating with them. They think we're not doing it, we are doing it. It's that whole communication. Maybe the Bart letter is a good spot, and maybe just like a certain editorial corner. Because if we are doing it, let's get credit for it, and if we're not doing it, let them know that we're going to do it, or we're going to step up and do it, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did we compare this survey to any of the surveys we've done in the past?
Well, it's a little bit tricky because we didn't ask the same questions every year. I think there are some overarching things. I was just looking back at our last one, and it's interesting because we see a lot of the same kind of concerns. But ones in previous years, you know, things about arts and Bartlett are cultural things and senior housing, and those were some of the big trends, school district. It was kind of whatever was bubbling in the community at the time that we took the survey. Those were some of the main comments. So it makes it difficult to do like a looking back analysis. I wish we would have asked some of the same questions where we could key
I
into.
think the #1 question in there is that overall quality, and that's one that should be asked every time, because that's one way we can see, like, overall, what are people thinking? Is it going up or down?
Well, Paulo, your Friday 5 summary that you sent out for the last one of the year would be something nice if it was just in bullet form for the residents to see. Not necessarily that detail, but hey, this is what we accomplished in 2022. So the Bartlett residents know, hey, you know, Public Works is building a new facility, and the police are getting new cameras and whatnot. You know, your money's being spent properly, however, whatever you want to do it, but like a top 10 list, Dave Letterman.
How satisfied is staff with how many people responded?
So we took a look at, before we started this process, we did a survey of other communities, just kind of see where they were at. And in terms of comparing ourselves to other communities that also did it in-house, we hit that kind of 8% mark, which is kind of, I know, off the top of my head, I know Streamwood had a similar result like that, and I feel pretty good about with doing it in-house, with that level of response.
I think from the ones that we looked at, they got a response anywhere between 4 and 8%. So I think we did well in terms of the outreach and getting a response back. I think it's pretty good.
Typically, when you outsource it and hire a firm to do it, do you get a better response rate, or?
No.
It's good to know.
Right. All right, well, I think
I
that's all.
think just one quick, are you getting ready to end this, Trustee Gansey?
Yes.
Yeah, just one quick thing. I think one thing that we should pay attention to with when people take a survey, it's a unique type of a person that's going to spend the time to actually do the survey, and it's either that they always provide their opinion or that they're mad about something. So I think these results are pretty impressive because that's typically the type of person that would want to do this survey is if they're really mad. So I think the results are really good. I agree that this gives us some good springboard points for our strategic planning to take a look at the commonalities and where, I mean, you can glance at this and we know that the tree trimming is kind of an issue and things like that. So some of the easier ones we can pick out to slide into those short-term goals.
All right. Anyone have anything else? All right, I think that was just for discussion. So.
All right, thank you, Chairman Gansey. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by trustee, I'm guessing here by trustee Gunstein, second by trustee Gansey, is that right?
No, I made the motion.
Yeah, who's Ray?
Daney and Swansky.
Moved by, and who?
Swansky.
Okay, moved by trustee Daney, second by trustee Sawinski. Swansky, any, clerk, please call the roll. Sorry.
All right. What's the message?
Hold on. Okay, my phone was going haywire. Will you please call the roll?
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
Gansey?
Yes.
Gunstein?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Happy 2023, everyone.